These are cinematic shots captured on my Sony a7 III. These are the types of shots that have gotten me hired on multiple different jobs, from sports commercials to music videos to documentaries, and above all else, made me money. And it's also created an incredible portfolio of work that I'm incredibly proud of. And here's the underlining thing that weaves all of this together. Every single shot that you saw in that reel of work, I knew nothing about what I was doing. Here's the thing, when it came to the technical specifications on how to actually capture these things, I am no professional whatsoever. I have no idea about what a picture profile is, what Kelvin levels are, white balance, I just use the presets. Don't tell me how to use scopes. I've never ever touched DaVinci Resolve. But yet I'm able to get these cinematic shots that look like this. So in this video, as you saw with the title, it's called Color Grading for Dummies because I really think that you don't need to know all of the technical specifications on how to get a good looking image. You just need to know some basics. So we're gonna go into the color grading software. The only thing that you're really going to need is your editing software of choice. Mine's gonna be Premiere Pro and this LUT pack. Now this video is not sponsored by this company whatsoever. I do have an affiliate link, but it's called Bounce Color, and I've been using this color grading pack for the past few months on multiple projects. I absolutely love it. I 100% support the grades that they've made. So the first things first, I'm just gonna get this sequence looking all good. I'm gonna put it into my frame rate of choice. Usually I always put my timelines into 23.976, which is standard frame rate for regular speed. Now, all of this stuff is going to be crazy, super duper cool slow-mo. So let's just change speed and duration to a 20%. Great. So the first shot that I want to talk about for color grading is this one of my mama. First thing we're gonna do is go into Lumetri Color. Now again, I'm gonna be talking about using LUTs for this video. LUTs are the best way to fast track your way to getting cinematic images, despite what a lot of people will say. Yes, it is a bit of a cheat code, but it can get you some really good looking stuff. So I have these LUTs from Bounce Color, and they are just some of the coolest looking LUTs. Like already, I just applied this one called Fade, and it just has this really crispy cinematic look. But if we just kind of go through, you can see in the examples over here, as I slide through them, all the different ones available. So if you guys download a LUT pack and have them in your sort of creative folder, you can, instead of like applying every single one and then looking and playing throughout your whole timeline, you can literally just zip through by clicking this arrow here, and you just see a quick little display of what LUT you kind of want to go for. So I'm just going to zip through, try and figure out the flavor and vibe that I want to go for in this sequence, and then choose the one that I really like. So I think I'm going to stick to, Dark Shadows looks really cool. Let's go with Nutty. Okay, so we have this nutty look to the image, and already, I mean, it's already awesome with my mom walking through this rainstorm. Let's just stretch this clip right out. You got the reds that are popping, but it looks a little desaturated, for example, within her face. So we're gonna open up Basic Correction. And Basic Correction is gonna be your life-saving device. I use basically this the whole time. I hardly ever play with curves. And what I like doing is just boost up that contrast a little bit, depending on what your picture profile is. I use PP5 on my camera, that's all I know. Playing around with the exposure, so it looks like her face is a little bit blown out, and so are these highlights. So just go down to highlights, do a little bit of highlight correction, boost up those shadows, maybe crank up that contrast a little bit. Once you boost up your shadows, it makes it feel a little bit flatter. So then just crank up that contrast a bit. And then in here, really your temperature and tint are going to be the game changers. So you can literally just move your temperature around. If you want to feel a little bit warmer, you can crank that temperature up. That's feeling pretty good. And then if you feel that, let's say, the skin tones aren't really getting you, they don't feel as natural, play around with the tint and see what you can do. So for example, if they look a little green, maybe just give them a little bit more magenta, zoom out, and this is feeling super sweet. Let's just full screen this a little bit more so we know what we're dealing with here. So already, I mean, that looks super sweet. I mean, maybe something that I would do is add a bit of a vignette. So just turn that down slightly. You don't want to go too crazy on your vignettes. That's literally like, I don't know, a minute worth of a color grade, and the image looks super sweet. Now you can get into complicated color grading techniques and methods. For example, if you really wanted to go far in this, you could change the color of the hoodie by going into your curves and doing color selection by clicking hue versus saturation, clicking onto that deal, and then just playing around with the saturation of that. Maybe we could boost it, but that's going into the fine details. Literally, I applied a LUT and have the image that I want. Now you'll notice a common theme between some of my favorite shots in this timeline. Most of them come from an overcast day. Now I filmed these in a really good time of day. Rainstorms and soft lighting really create a dynamic look within your image, but you don't have to always go for that. This is how you get sort of like a nice, warm, fuzzy feel within your footage, but still has a bit of a dramatic feel. Okay, so the next shot is Nick on a boat fishing. And so with this, I want to go for, let's go through our LUTs yet again, basic correction. And this time we're going to go for something a little bit darker, cooler, and moodier. So going through these LUTs that are available, and as you can see, there's a wide range of different selections like pistachio and skin tone contrast. Like I just clicked that on there and it already has such a wonderful vibe. And the trick is just to get these images to look the way you want them to is by making sure that you have nice, soft, even lighting on your talent. And I know that's not always the easiest because obviously weather conditions change. So what I would honestly do is find somewhere that you can get that type of look if you're wanting that cinematic flavor, or just make sure that nothing is overly blown out in your image and nothing is lost within the data. So skimming through this, I'm going to find the look that I want to go for. Again, let's go for something moodier and more dramatic. I'm going to go click on to, I like pistachio V2 skin tones. Boom. So now we've applied them. And again, we can go through and adjust this even more. So maybe I want it to just be a little cooler, so we'll lower the temperature down. I definitely think it needs a bit more contrast. Let's lower that exposure just slightly, lower the highlights. And the things that I look for in a good image is, can you see everything? Again, we can see the detail in the sky. The skin tones aren't looking too wonky. If I were to boost this up, boost up my tint too high, it almost just looks too magenta-y, and that's something that people are going to notice. The first thing that your audience is going to notice when they're watching your footage is skin tones. If those are off or wonky, that's going to throw them out. If someone's skin looks, let's say, too green, it's just going to feel like they have some sort of disease. If it's too pink, it's going to look like they have a sunburn. So sort of finding something beautiful in the middle is how you get that nice, clean look. And again, let's just throw a bit of a vignette on this deal and play it out, and it feels pretty good right about now. And if we want it to really feel diverse, we can bring down that temperature, boost up that contrast, lower the exposure slightly, and you just get this really dramatic look. Now let's look at our next shot. This is me jumping into the water, and what I want to show you is if you do find a good LUT or color that you want, in Premiere, what I'll do is I'll just go Apple C, Control C, or go into this and do press copy, and that'll copy all the settings within our one clip, and then we're just going to go paste. And let's actually just do it to 2 images just so you know. So I'll highlight 2 clips. You can do this for all of your images in a timeline, do paste attributes, and then this one's going to pop up. We're going to go OK, and then my color grade from the last shot is going to apply to this one. But what I want to show you in this shot specifically is my skin tones look totally off. I look pale, gross, sickly. So what we're going to do is go into temperature, increase that temperature a little bit just so that the skin tones start to look back to normal, but we still get that cool flavor. And already, I mean, we've got something that I'm super stoked about, and that was just some minor fine tuning to the image to get it that nice, crispy look jumping into the water. Here's another clip that I want to show you. This is an interior shot during the day. Now, I want to play this one out because I think it has like that nice warm glow kind of feel, and I definitely don't think, if we were to paste that color grade that we had on the other shot, for example, I think it just looks too moody and too dark. This is what we had on the boat shots. It feels not my vibe. So let's hop in and go into creative yet again and just go through some of these color grades that are available. I really like the look of hazel, so we can just apply that, and that already looks pretty tight. There's hazel skin tone, so that your skin tones work with the image. And we just skim through these fast. I think hazel's where it's at. Or avocado. Let's stick with Hazel. Now, if you feel like the color grade's coming off a little too strong, you can adjust the intensity. So this is it with nothing, and then we can just dial it up to get the image that we want it to look like. I think just a little bit in the middle. And again, we can sort of bring out some more detail in the shadows here. We're kind of losing some stuff, so let's just boost up those shadows slightly, lower down those highlights. And if you feel like it feels too warm, what you can always do is just lower, play around with your temperature so that your white balance maybe might come across to be a little bit more normal. But I really do like the way everything looks. We can play around with the contrast. And I mean, again, adjust the saturation if you want. Sometimes I find that if the skin tones feel like they're kind of drawing from that LUT that you're using too much, you can literally just adjust the saturation to the image and it comes across. That'll help adjust your skin tones right away so that they don't come across too, I want to say juicy or like too much. And so that's it. So that's a diverse range of different shots with completely different color grades on them that feel, I think, cinematic, that have a good vibe and have a good flavor, but don't necessarily take a ton of time. We're not going through scopes and playing around with a bunch of different things. Now, I shot these with the look in mind while I was filming it. This is something that can really help you out as well. If you know the look that you want to go for and you can get the best looking image in camera, that means when you go into putting a LUT in or you go into the color grading process, you're not spending a ton more time perfecting it. But so long as when you shoot the image, nothing is overly blown out, you have even lighting, which you'll find on an overcast day or just, find in the shade, which I'll have another video that talks about that later. And also that you're shooting at a somewhat right white balance, you should be good. And even white balances can be adjusted in post. Don't ever feel that you can't bring back your image's colors. And just as a quick example right here, in our latest vlog for the Islanders, if you look in one of our shots here, this is like in one of our new vlogs that I'm working on. If we take a look at the raw shot, I had like an ND filter on the lens, and what it was doing, it was creating like this green discoloration. So if we go into the available LUTs here, and I go through and try and find, my LUT of choice, let's go Pistachio V2 Skin Tone and Contrast, one of my favorites. It looks super desaturated and not really that nice. But we can bring this image back. We can make this look good very quickly by boosting up that contrast, because we're losing a lot of contrast with that ND filter. I think I'm gonna lower the exposure just slightly, add a little bit more saturation just because it feels a little bit muted. Already it's starting to feel good, but it feels a little too green, right? Like my skin tones feel off, the water doesn't look that aqua that I want. So we'll just bring up the tint slightly. Already starting to feel good. Take the temperature down a little bit, and what that's gonna do is, if you see my skin here, it just looks like I got a bad sunburn, which I do, but if we bring down the temperature slightly, we get back that aqua tone, my skin looks a lot less red and burnt up, and now all of a sudden we've got an image that's super usable within 30 seconds, and that's all you have to do. A color grading process is as much of creating a look and a flavor as it is repairing an image, and if you can figure out that process, you are going to come across some really great imagery. Now, finally, just to wrap this all in together, do you need to know how to color grade and know things about white balances and scopes and all of that stuff? Absolutely. But don't stop yourself at not knowing. I've had plenty of incredibly talented filmmaker friends who've stopped themselves in their tracks because they don't think they know enough. And they all of a sudden, their career just goes on pause because they're not confident in their levels. But rather, instead of stopping at not knowing, pull the ignorance is bliss card and just keep going and wind up on set and shoot something. And as long as you know the basics, which are make sure that you're using the white balance is somewhat correct, and that can probably be fixed in post-production. Make sure that nothing is overexposed or underexposed, which if you use your auto ISO and make sure your ND filter isn't screwed on too tight, you're totally fine. And your framing's nice and the lighting looks good. And above all else, those should usually equate to an okay looking image that you can beef up in post-production to get some good looks. The biggest thing is just repetition makes the master, and the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. And the only way you're gonna get better is not by watching YouTube videos all day and not by watching a bunch of tutorials, but actually going out and doing it. So Hopefully that helped you guys out. Hopefully this video has been a little bit of a lesson or a little bit of wisdom from my experience of just being a dummy on the field. Again, you can get hired, you can get jobs, you can do everything that you want in your filmmaking career without knowing everything. That's it, folks. Have a wonderful day. See you guys later. If you enjoy this footage, you like the stuff that you saw in the demo here and want to follow this sort of islander lifestyle a little bit more, all that footage that you saw was from our adventures of wandering out throughout nature here on the island, living this sort of nomadic lifestyle. And I've started this new series with my buddy Nick McNaught called The Islanders. You can watch the first 2 episodes on this channel right now and give those a gander, because it would be amazing to have your support to watch that series. And let me know if there's anything else within sort of the cinematic field that you'd like to learn about, as well as about just this island lifestyle. What's it all about? What are we doing? How are we doing? Where are we going? What's the whole thing? That's it. Okay, love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Bye.